Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I finally have a video on pricing your photography for fashion shoots, and I'll hopefully cover a few different genres of fashion shoots, if that makes sense, so not just one particular style of shoot. And I know people have been requesting this for a while and I've only just gotten around to doing it, so I'm really sorry it's taken so long. I actually literally just received my Canon G7X in the mail, was it yesterday? So yeah, I really wanted to try that out, so I thought today it's going to be a bit easier now to film things like this. Just a little bit easier than sort of messing around with my SLR all the time, trying to get everything focused properly, and hopefully this is focusing right now. But anyway, okay, so we'll start with I think just a few tips for pricing your photography, because obviously I can't tell you guys what to charge for your shoots because everyone is different, and even location wise it comes down to that too, where you are, what your market is in the area that you live in, and everywhere is different. So I think that's one thing to take into consideration when you are trying to price your photography. So this video is going to be mainly on fashion shoots. I'm not really going to cover any weddings or family portraits or anything like that just yet. I might do another video for those later on, but for now I'm just going to do fashion. So I think the first point that I might just go over is that maybe try not to price your photography on like a per hour basis. I just don't think that that's a good way to do things personally. And I've talked to a lot of other photographers and they seem to think the same way. You know, everyone's different, so if you feel comfortable or more comfortable charging per hour, then by all means do so. But I prefer to price my photography in like a package form. So I like to have, specifically for model portfolio shoots, I'll have like a couple of packages, and usually I'll have sort of ones that are a little bit cheaper and that include less. So maybe the smallest package might be like up to 1 hour shooting time, and it might include like 10 to 15 images, and then I'll price it on that. Then I'll have my more expensive package that will be, you know, up to 2 hours shooting time. And it is all down to you know, individual people and what you guys do and how many photos you're comfortable in giving the client that you have. And yeah, it just comes down to that. So I would say try to put things into a package form, and I think that goes for most styles of photography really, not just fashion. And when you're working out your packages, try not to have too many. Sometimes they can get a bit confusing for the client when they're wanting to book something, particularly with model portfolios. If you've got like say 7 packages or something like that, they're probably going to be like, well, what do I need? So I like to keep it to like maybe 2 to 4 maybe, but like I said, all depends on what you guys do and what your preference is when organizing your packages. So with these packages, I like to make them my base packages. So this is like the most basic package available. So if they want any extras, if the client wants any extras on top of that, then you can add that on price wise. So if they want more shooting time or if they want more photos, then you can just add on to those packages, if that makes sense. And I think that's a good way to go about it, because every client is going to be different and they'll all want different things. So if you can kind of tailor those base packages to your client's needs, that's probably going to be the best way to go about it. For commercial shoots and sort of things like lookbook, advertising, campaigns, that sort of thing, I would definitely recommend having more, instead of like a package per se, because obviously it's a bit hard to sort of sell a package, but when you're talking to the client, obviously they are always going to want something different for advertising and that sort of thing. And I like to have my basic half-day rate and my full-day rate. So instead of charging per hour or having like several packages, I think to just keep things kind of less confusing, have a half-day fee, have a full-day fee, and if the shoot goes over a couple of days, then you can double that full-day fee. Or if you just want the half-day fee, you can say up to 4 hours shooting time, if that makes sense. And then for your full day, you can have up to 8 hours shooting time. And that way you can kind of include your editing time into that fee as well, and anything else. Like you can probably specify how many photos that you will give for that time too, so that kind of helps the client decide on which package that they're going to choose. But like I said before, if you have your base half day and full day packages for commercial fashion shoots, then at least you can add different things on top. So if the client would like more photos on top of what you're giving, then you can charge extra for that, and so on and so forth. If they want more time, then you can charge per hour after that base package rate. And the reason I don't charge per hour generally is because I like to include my editing time into it. I guess you can include your editing time into an hourly rate, but sometimes it's just easier to have a package. At least if you give your package details, then you know how long you're going to be at a shoot, you know how long it's going to take you to wrap up and to do everything. So instead of just saying, you know, like, oh, I'll charge per hour and then I'll just wind up at the shoot, and then you could be there for 6 hours, and it's just, it helps with planning beforehand and afterwards as well. So I personally like to have a package system. Also take into consideration when you are pricing your photography with editing fees, like I said before, and travel fees. So a lot of my shoots are like well over an hour away from where I live, so I have to factor in like a traveling fee. So I'll usually put that up. If it's anywhere outside of my area, my region, then I put a travel fee there, and then at least that covers any costs of, you know, going on the train or driving anywhere. And try to base your prices around your experience with photography. I know it's really hard at first to come up with your first initial pricing system, and it's a bit scary because you don't want to charge too much, and I can totally understand that because I have been there, and I know a lot of other photographers that have been there as well. So yeah, as I said, base it on your experience. If you've, you know, had a few years experience with photographing already, then you can charge more, and I don't think you should be afraid to charge a little bit more or to charge what your competitors are charging if you feel that you're on the same experience level as them, because people will pay. And I think, you know, it's your time, it's your creative concepts that you're putting into the shoots, and yeah, don't be afraid to charge. But also I would definitely recommend being comfortable with what you're charging, because if you're not comfortable, then, you know, it starts to get a bit scary, and, you know, I feel like you can't win either way. People are going to probably tell you that you're overcharging or you're undercharging. So I mean, like, just try to do it to the best of your ability with pricing, and to base it around your experience, because everyone is different and everyone is probably going to charge something different. And yeah, it's just something that you have to learn to do with charging money. Like I said, don't be afraid, but feel comfortable as well with what you're charging. I mean, a lot of people have said to me before, oh, you're undercharging, you should be charging a lot more for what you're doing. And in some ways I can understand what they're saying, or at some points in my career I've understood that. But then again, I'm comfortable with what I'm charging a lot of the time, so I'm fine to charge that. And if you're fine with charging that, then, you know, I don't see a problem with it. So also do your research when it comes to pricing your photography. So if you have to, maybe even send some of your competitors around your area an email saying, you know, how much do you charge for a photo shoot? I know a lot of photographers are a bit like, they don't like to sort of say how much they're charging, and that's fair enough. But if you're trying to do some research, you know, it might be a good way to do it. Just try and do as much around your immediate area as you can. And on that note, there is a reason why a lot of photographers won't display their prices on their websites, and one of those main reasons is, like I said before, I have base packages. So if the client wants something more, sometimes it can get misconstrued by having prices on your website, and the client looks at that and thinks that they can get, you know, something else for that price, if that makes sense. They may not understand the package completely and what it includes, and it can get a bit, you know, dodgy when your actual client gets in contact with you. So I prefer to not put those base packages on my website. I'll wait for the client to contact me, and that kind of shows that the client's really interested in your work too. They're more interested in finding out what you specifically charge, rather than seeing someone else's work and someone else's prices on another website and just automatically going, oh, they're cheap, I'll get them, or something like that. So it's it kind of shows that the client is interested in your work and is interested in, like, your creativity as well, and they want to know what you charge. So I think that's another reason why I probably wouldn't put my prices on my website. I've just had to move back because the light in this room is like changing every 5 seconds, and I'm like getting this weird like reflection of my leg at the moment. I don't even know what that's from. But yeah, so something like that is definitely up for debate, putting prices on your website. But with fashion photography in particular, I feel it's more important not to do that because every shoot is going to be different. Weddings are a little bit different again. However, I still wouldn't put my prices on my website probably for weddings. But with fashion, you know, the shoot lengths, the lengths of time, and you know, they're all just different. So I would totally just quote your shoots on a shoot by shoot basis. I would generally charge more as well on another point for lookbook, campaign, advertising, any commercial work that's not so much e-commerce. I think e-commerce is a little bit more on the simple side. You know, obviously you have to get your technicalities right, your lighting has to be good and that sort of thing, but I think e-commerce is a little bit more straightforward. There's not as much creativity going into it, so I'd probably charge a little bit less for that than something over advertising and campaign and lookbook and that sort of thing, because your creativity and your time really goes into that. With e-commerce, it is just mainly your time that goes into it, and your skill as a photographer too, but like I said, I'd probably charge a little bit less for something like that. So it's always good to include the amount of photos that you're going to give the client in your package as well. Otherwise, if you don't sort of give an approximate figure even, they can expect a lot more from you than what you end up giving them, and then you can run into problems. So I generally like to consult with my client beforehand, and I'll sort of say, how many photos do you need for this particular shoot? And, you know, not so much model portfolios because I have separate packages for those, but for advertising, commercial, anything like that, I would ask them beforehand and say, how many photos do you need for this? And then I would quote them based on that. So it's always good to ask questions before you actually do quote your client. Get the sort of the basics down, and then, you know, then you can decide on what a good price might be for that. Also include hours of shooting time, I think, in your pricing. Hours of shooting time is very important. If you don't include it, then you could be there all day and it can be just a mess. You can end up working a lot more than what you should be on the day, and yeah, sometimes the client will expect you to be there a lot longer and you've already got the photos that you need. So it's always a good idea to include that as well into your pricing packages and things like that. Alright guys, sorry, I just had to readjust the camera again because the lighting in here is still changing a lot. I really should know by now not to film in the afternoon, but anyway, if I didn't film this today, I'm pretty sure I would never get it done, so I really just wanted to get it done. Okay, my last point today is just to try and charge a deposit. So this will really help lock in any shoots that you have planned. If it's non-refundable especially, people are going to be more inclined to go ahead with the shoot. There are a lot of flaky people out there, unfortunately, that will not turn up to shoots, or they'll try and postpone 1,000 times, and it's not good for your own business, I guess, and trying to work around your own plans. So it's a really good idea to charge a deposit. Whether that be like 25%, 20%, something like that. That's usually what I charge. But I feel like that's a good idea, just to make sure you're locking in that money and you're locking in the shoot overall. Alright guys, I hope the points that I gave you today are going to be helpful for you. I know I've probably missed quite a bit. There's a few points that I had a bit earlier on, but I've just totally forgotten what I was going to say. So I'm sure they'll come to me later on. But if you guys have any extra questions, please leave them in the comments section below and I will try to answer them the best that I can. If you guys have any personal tips on what you like to do with your own pricing, because it is really hard for each individual person. That's my phone, just ignore that. Anyway, it is really hard for each individual person to price their photography, because as I said, it's dependent on so many things, and experience being one of those things. So if you guys do have any tips that you've worked out yourself, please put them in the comment section below, because I'm sure other people who are really just starting out and starting to get their own pricing system together would love to hear. I hope I've included enough in this video. I've kind of got a feeling that there was probably a little bit more that I did have to say, but unfortunately I can't really remember it right now, sorry guys. But as I said, leave your questions below, and if there's anything that I've missed, I will try and answer those questions to the best of my ability. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully have a few more videos out now that I've got a smaller camera and it's a little bit easier to film more quickly, I guess. I will hopefully be doing a bit of a vlog style video, maybe tomorrow if I get time. And I'm pretty much just going to show you guys what I do in a typical day of being a freelance photographer. It probably won't be that interesting, I'm just warning you guys, but I thought that it's something that you guys might like to see, especially with just doing some different editing things and just, I guess, behind the scenes business stuff that I might end up doing tomorrow. I'm not quite sure yet, but we'll see how we go. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!